He was the king of hip-hop, untouchable, unstoppable, and always in control. But behind the scenes of the glitz and Grammys, something darker was brewing. For years, the world praised Sean Combs as a genius, a mogul, a cultural icon. But now in a federal courtroom, his former assistant has stepped into the spotlight, testifying under oath about what she says really happened behind closed doors. She's hidden her identity. She's risked everything. And her story? It's shaken the entire industry. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a deep, disturbing look at power, control, and the silence that protects it. And once you hear what she said, you'll never look at Diddy the same way again. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs wasn't just a music mogul, he was the mogul. From running Bad Boy Records to launching billion-dollar brands, he built an empire that stretched far beyond hip-hop. He produced chart-topping albums, discovered global stars, and turned his name into a cultural symbol of power, wealth, and success. To the public, Diddy was untouchable, a fashion icon, a Grammy winner, a man who went from Harlem hustler to industry kingmaker with nothing but ambition and drive. Fans saw the glitz, the parties, the private jets, and they admired him for it. But while the world watched him pop bottles and deliver motivational speeches, something else may have been happening behind the scenes. Something darker, something no one dared to talk about until now. And that's where everything starts to unravel. She goes by the name Mia in court. No last name, no photos, just a pseudonym and a trembling voice. But her story, it's loud enough to shake the entire music industry. Mia worked for Sean Combs from 2009 to 2017. First as a personal assistant, then inside his film division. On the surface, it looked like a dream job, traveling the world with a music icon, rubbing shoulders with celebrities, being part of the empire. But behind the glamour, she claims she was living in a nightmare. For years, she stayed silent. No police reports, no lawsuits, not even a whisper, until 2024. That's when she finally broke, after 28 separate meetings with federal prosecutors. Only then did she reveal what she says really happened during those 8 years. Why the delay? In her own words, "I was ashamed and wanted to die with this." That silence wasn't just about fear, it was about survival. Mia says she felt trapped, mentally, emotionally, and financially, by a man the world saw as invincible. And the most disturbing part? She wasn't just afraid of what he'd do, she was afraid no one would believe her. But eventually, the weight became too much to carry. And what she revealed next would change everything. Mia didn't just describe a toxic workplace. She painted a picture of psychological warfare. According to her testimony, working for Sean Combs wasn't just demanding, it was dehumanizing. She spoke of sleep deprivation, relentless demands at all hours, and a culture where fear ruled everything. But then her voice cracked as she detailed something far more disturbing: non-consensual behavior that crossed major boundaries. One of the most haunting moments of the trial came when Mia described waking up to find Combs in her room. She says he entered while she was sleeping and violated her personal boundaries. Her words were clear, her tone was shaken, and when asked why she kept it buried for so long, she didn't hesitate. "I told my therapist, that was it. I didn't want anyone else to ever know. I wanted to die with this." The defense pounced, asking why she never mentioned this during her exit from the company, especially when she received a $400,000 settlement in mediation. But Mia held firm. The incident happened. She just wasn't ready to face it. It wasn't just about a moment of trauma. It was about control. Mia claims Combs manipulated her with fear, shame, and secrecy. She says he warned her never to speak out, threatening to expose personal details about her to others, including his then-partner, Cassie Ventura. This wasn't a scandal built on rumors. This was a woman, under oath, describing years of alleged mistreatment by one of the most powerful men in music. But as the prosecution revealed, Mia's story might just be one piece of a much bigger puzzle. What started as one woman's testimony quickly turned into something far bigger. Federal prosecutors aren't just accusing Sean Combs of isolated incidents. They're painting him as the head of a criminal enterprise. Their case suggests a pattern, a network of employees, intimidation tactics, and illegal activity, all orchestrated by the man known as Diddy. According to the prosecution, Combs didn't act alone. They claim he used his power to direct employees to commit serious crimes, everything from bribery and obstruction to destruction of evidence, forced work conditions, and exploitation. And Mia's story? They say it's just one of many that fit a disturbing mold. Prosecutors allege that Combs used fear as currency, rewarding loyalty, punishing dissent, and making sure no one ever felt safe enough to speak speak out. In Mia's case, they argue she was coerced into both professional and personal labor under the threat of harm. That's the foundation of the racketeering conspiracy charge. If they're right, this case isn't just about one assistant. It's about a system built on manipulation and silence, one that protected a powerful man while countless others suffered behind closed doors. And the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted, Sean Combs could spend the rest of his life behind bars. But the defense had other plans. They weren't just denying the charges. They were ready to flip the entire narrative upside down. If the prosecution came armed with allegations, the defense fired back with something simpler: screenshots. Sean Combs' lawyer, Brian Steele, didn't just challenge Mia's claims. He went after her credibility with a strategy that was sharp, aggressive, and deeply personal. His weapon of choice? Old text messages and social media posts. In court, Steele confronted Mia with messages she sent years after leaving Combs' employment. Warm, affectionate, even admiring notes. One of them praised him, another sent well wishes. There were even moments of what looked like fondness. And in front of a full courtroom, Steele pushed the question: how can you say this man hurt you when this is how you talked about him? Mia's response was raw: because I was brainwashed. She explained that the version of Combs she cared about, the charismatic, protective boss, was just one side of a man with many faces. She said the warmth in her messages wasn't love, it was survival. He protected me from the other versions of himself. I didn't understand what happened to me until recently, as he was still being praised by everybody in the world, so how would I have known? But the defense wasn't done. They implied she may have been motivated by money, suggesting she jumped on the hashtag #MeToo money grab. That question was quickly shut down by the judge, but the message was clear. They wanted the jury to doubt everything. Still, Mia didn't waver. I have never lied in this courtroom, she said, and I never will lie in this courtroom. But the damage, or the doubt, was already in motion. And just when the courtroom couldn't feel more divided, a detail from Mia's past resurfaced: a $400,000 payout with no mention of misconduct. In 2017, when Mia walked away from Sean Combs' world for good, she left with more than just memories. She walked away with a $400,000 settlement. It wasn't hush money, at least not officially. The payout came through mediation as part of her exit agreement from the company. But here's the twist: not once did she mention inappropriate conduct during that process. The defense latched onto that silence like a lifeline. To them, it was the ultimate contradiction. If something so serious had happened, why stay quiet, especially when lawyers and mediators were at the table? But Mia had an answer, and it cut deep. Because I was ashamed. I didn't even want to admit it to myself. She insisted that the money had nothing to do with what she was now revealing in court. And when asked directly if she wanted any more from Combs, any cash, any fame, any deals, she laughed. No, she said, almost scoffing. I don't want anything from him. And true to her word, she's filed no civil suits, no lawsuits, no book deals, no exclusive interviews, just a witness stand and a truth she says took years to fully understand. Still, the $400,000 detail planted a seed in the courtroom, one the defense hoped would grow into reasonable doubt. But the prosecutors weren't backing down, because for them, this wasn't about a settlement. It was about a man they say orchestrated something far darker, an entire system built to protect power through silence, manipulation, and fear. And as they shifted the focus back to Combs, one more question loomed large. Who else knew, and why didn't they say anything? Because if Mia's story is true, if what happened to her wasn't just a one-time event, but part of a larger pattern, then someone, somewhere, saw something and stayed silent. That's what prosecutors are now digging into. They've hinted that more witnesses may come forward. Former employees, insiders, even people still working in the music industry. Some may have signed NDAs. Others may be battling their own trauma. But the feds are sending a clear message. If you know something, now's the time to talk. And for Diddy, the walls are closing in. This is no longer about one assistant. It's about a legacy that's cracking at the foundation. A carefully crafted image of hustle, glamour, and power, now stained with accusations that could define the rest of his life. The man who once rapped, "Can't stop, won't stop," he's now facing the one thing even the most powerful can't escape: accountability. Because when a courtroom hears your name, when survivors find their voice, and when silence is finally broken, the truth has a way of echoing louder than fame ever could. This case isn't over. More names may surface, more voices may rise, and whatever the verdict, one thing is clear: the myth of untouchability is gone.